Pawan has 7+ years of experience in testing world with banking, healthcare, and water domain. He has exposure to IoT, microservices, cloud, Ranorex, Selenium, QTP, Docker running extensively, Xamarin, cloud-based web mobile testing with framework architecture designing. So Pawan has a very good experience and all sort of things. And Pawan will be speaking on testing for microservices app using Azure Service Fabric clusters. So to know more about Pawan Kumar, requesting everyone to please reach out to Pawan over LinkedIn or on a Agile Testing Alliance website where we have the speaker series over there. So over to you, Pawan.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for having me here for the GTR conference. So, myself is Pawan, as he already Karthik has introduced me. So, I'll just quickly start with why we are moving ahead with the MSF, which is nothing but the microservice apps, right? So, MS apps or microservices apps actually brings a lot of different small chunk of the services. Now, why we are choosing only the service fabric? We have many other MS app service provider, right? So since the Azure is the connectivity provider and Service Fabric is also from the Microsoft, so both the platform will combine together and will give you the pretty much good coverage in terms of the deployment, in terms of the running your test, in terms of the feasibility of your or the whole infrastructure, right? So that's why this Azure with the Service Fabric is like very good combinations. So I'll start with the agenda. What are the things we are going to discuss on that? So the first thing we'll be looking here like what are the overview of the microservices in the generic. Then we'll introduce the service fabric. Then we'll see the architecture of it and what are the advantages. Then how actually the service fabric will be used for the testings, right? And followed by we'll see what is the process of the installation in the local on your system and then as well as in the Azure portal. And then finally we'll run our the test in the local whatever we have installed or configured the cluster, right? The same place we'll be running our test in the local as well as the cluster. So let me go with the overview. Before I start with the microservice, right? The most of the organization or the company, they just simply follow the monolithic. What is the monolithic is like they will be having the entire application in the one server, right? And if they have to upgrade their software or the application, they probably will go for the downtime for maybe 1 hour, right? And in that case, even for the small chunk of the code or in small chunk of the application, part of the application need to be changed, the entire application is remains down, right? And the same time the our clients will be like helpless, they'll not be able to use that. So to overcome of this solution, only the microservice actually took place over it. Now, what are the microservices? As I told, like this is the chunk of the services, like all the services which I take the example of the Facebook. So the login is one of the services. Once you logged in, you can see the home, right? Where you actually see the feed data. Now you'll be having the option for to upload your photos, videos, or some of the status. Those are nothing but one of the, I mean, uploading a photo will be the one of the services. Now, if they have to make some changes in that, some maybe the lookup failed, maybe the background some change or APIs changes, they just need to worry about that, but that part of the service instead of like uploading the entire Facebook application, right? So that will be pretty much easy because it is loosely coupled. It's not like highly dependent on okay, I have to deploy on the login also, then I have to deploy on the some other part of the application also, right? They just need to
Sorry
stick
to
to the
interrupt.
yeah.
Can you put it on a presentation mode? It will be clear to us.
Yeah, sure.
Slideshow. Thank you.
Yeah. So instead of like looking for the entire application or the software product, what I'm targeting here, what the microservice is targeting here, like a small chunk of the services, right? Which will give you. Now, how these services are getting communicated. So obviously they will be having some internal APIs, they will be having some external APIs as well, and both will be communicated to each. I'll quickly show you in the architecture how these are communicating, but they will be communicating only through the APIs. Now, deployable. As I said, like I just want to deploy one chunk of the services. So it's an obvious like you can ignore rest of the services which are already deployed, where we don't have any such changes to be deployed for the production, right? Coming for the skills or like increasing the services on the server, right? Or let's say like you have right now 100 customers and the same set of application you want to provide for the 1,000 customers, right? You just need to change the services. I mean the level of the services, instead of like deploying for the various what you call the services servers. What you can do, you can just scale the number of nodes, and based on that, how the distribution system helping out with the help of Azure cluster mechanism, it will it will identify randomly like which node has to be hit, which server need to be hit, and based on that the people will be able to access your application, right? Now replicating is like nothing but how exactly you want to duplicate your stuff. Let's say one of your nodes are down, right? But still like you have like multiple nodes, 3 node, 5 node, 10 nodes, and you want to use the failover mechanism which we have right now. How can you use it? So in that case the replication is one of the key factor where one of the node will be like get aside, second node will be get activated immediately. So that's the concept of the microservice here. Now as I said, loosely coupled because they doesn't have any dependency with each other. So that is the that concept comes for the loosely coupled. Now, coming back to the service fabric. So service fabric, as I said, like it's very good combination with the Azure, but it's not only restricted with Azure. You can use all other like AWS, what are the cloud services which you have, right? You can use what do you call supportable because it's working on the .NET Core. So it's built on it can be like with with the rest of the cloud services, but you will be getting like a lot more benefits. So that's why we are using Azure right now. Now, what are the platform which we are using, right? So one of the main key factor of the Azure is the service fabric cluster is the stateless and the take one example of Amazon as a website. You see, if you search any of the product, like if you search mobile, n number of mobiles in the table, right, in the search area. That concept is nothing but the stateless. They don't have to store your variables, store your sessions. But when you go add to the cart, when you go to the final payment gateway and you actually place the order, there only the your session, your all your information, payment details, your name, address, whatever things is required. That only comes to the picture where the servers needs to hold your data. That is nothing but stateful, right? So in terms of the service, in application, you can distinguish what services you want to make it as a stateless, what are the services you want to make it as a stateful, and based on that, you can finally integrate to each other, and then you can make a one good product, right? So that's the concept of the service fabric where you can actually create multiple servers, stateful, and one called the actor. I'll show you what is the actor. This is the main architecture where you can actually see like different blocks are representing for each other. So I'll quickly glance on it, like how exactly they communicate with your API, with your data, sorry, your code, which actually they're in product. Those how it's getting communicated. Let's say you have two services, right? One service is for the login, and the services is for the search criteria. What are the search item you are searching it, right? Those two services are there. So two services need to be communicate to each other, right? So they will communicate with their internal API, which is again Service Fabric is providing. We don't have to write any such code directly to communicate to each other. Instead, the Service Fabric is directly providing their internal APIs. We can simply go and communicate to each other based on what are the requirements, whatever code demands, right? Those things will be there. Coming back to the federation system, like scalable, right? It has to manage all the failover, right? It will tell you like, okay, I'm sensing like this node has to be get damaged, or this node is about to get damaged, right? Or something is wrong about this node. So that sense will actually help you, and it will simply go to the reliability and the subsystem. It will tell you, okay, so since this one of the node is down, the other nodes will get activated, and because of that, my application will still sustain, and and the users will be able to access it. Now coming back to the communication subsystem, which is actually nothing but how actually the transport subsystem is taking, right? This is on top of that, where it will allow you to communicate all the internal or external APIs to communicate over it. Now management subsystem is nothing but how actually you are deploying it, right? Once you deploy your application, you can see like whether your application is healthy or not, whether you have some kind of errors, whether you have, or whether you need some extra efforts to make your application ready, right? So all those things will be there, and already the service fabric provides a very good GUI, a user interface, where you can actually see like how exactly the application is getting deployed, right? Now application model is nothing but where all your raw data, right, the binaries, when you actually deploy it, all the binaries will get set somewhere, right? So those will get here, and from there all the services will get communicated. Now coming to the last approach, where the testability subsystems, right? So what it does here, like when you write a lot of unit tests, right, during your the coding standard, right, or when you write the API test, what you can do it, you can create some sort of your own APIs to test all your existing unit test or the API test, and then you can actually encounter in the production as well. It will also glance you like what are the test has been failed, what are the failover has been done, and based on that you can rerun your test without actually monitoring. Let's say like even though it's failing after running for the multiple times, what you can do, you can get your report ready and you can analyze it, and then you can discuss among the over the teams, right? So those things definitely comes with the Azure, only integration with the Azure with the service fabric. So moving to the next slide, we'll see here some advantages, like what are the main core advantages which we have when we use for the service fabric. So as I said, like the scalability. So of course, we can scale your services based on the nodes configured. What are the nodes capacity which you have the license for that, you can scale it. Coming back to the programming, right, which I said, you can use the stateful, stateless, or the actor. So based on that, you can identify your services. Reliable, as like the failover and the early detection will be having I mean it will be like very what do you call, early detection or sense of the nodes will be having, okay, I'm going to fail it, my service server have some issues, so those kind of alert will be there, so that is how it's reliable. Latency is very low because again it's very loosely coupled. It can be quick deploy and can be from anywhere. So either you can deploy from the Azure, you can deploy from other cloud services, doesn't matter. Always on. So this is the best part of this using the service fabric is there will not be any downtime. You can say like 0 second downtime. The only the thing will happen, you will be kicked out. If you have the session, if you have logged in, you will be just kicked out, and user needs to be logged in again. So that's the benefit out of it. Like we don't have the downtime for the 100 minutes or the you can say 1 hour or 2 hour, right? Health monitoring. You will be, since the service fabric is providing some user interface, you can actually see the health. What is the health of the particular service? Whether you want to scale it or not. From there, you can do that. Self-healing, as I said, like okay, the first node is saying I'm getting down, the other will get captured, meanwhile it will try to repair itself, right? So that's all happening because of the balancer, and that balancer is nothing but getting by the Azure. Now we saw the advantages, right? What are the advantages which we had. Now coming back to the testing, how we are going to approach, how we are going to use it in the testing, right? So as I said, like this is nothing but the small module. So you can treat as one of the small modules as a software product. Instead of combining together and making it one product, each services you can create, assume as a one product, right? So if login is one of my services, then testing for individual components will be easy for me, right? You will be having just to verify whether the login is done or not. No matter what is happening next, it's not none of my business here, right? Now, let's say like all the services are done. all your tests are written, either the API, UI, or unit test, all are done. Now you need to test it, right? You can create a single API that is called the master. Whatever you call it, name it, doesn't matter. You can create one API and call all your test uh, to that, and you can put in the CI/CD again. Those API can run as part of the CI/CD, and whenever your deployment is done, either in the testing environment, on the stage, and the prod, you just need to hit one API and all your test is gone. All your tests will be running, right? And the if you have configured some report, your report will be generated out, right? Again, scaling capability or the multiple nodes. So by default, with a limited cost amount, Azure supports either 1 or 5. But if you want to purchase for the very high, or maybe for the what you call uh, professionally, they provide multiple nodes of it. Okay, based on the purchase, based on the amount which you have invested on that, you can create multiple nodes on it. But by default, with your enterprise edition, or maybe with your with your what you call the local Azure setup or account, they provide only either 1 or 5. Load balancer, right? So let's say like one of the load balancer, as I mentioned earlier, one of the virtual machine where your application is hosted, right? That is down. Automatically, it will jump to the next server. It will not even wait for, okay, my one server was done. It was actually requested for my first server where it is down. It will reroute it to the next server, whatever it is available. So that's how this supports the load balancing, and that's how your execution will be faster, right? So what I'll show you here, like how exactly you are going to deploy locally. So since it takes a hell lot of time, because I can't see a live demo here, but since I've recorded everything in the screenshot, that I'll show you. So if you try to configure locally, it takes around 30 minutes in the initial setup. So this is the URL where you need to, again, it's a Microsoft URL. You need to go and click this link. You will be showing here the SDK, the latest SDK, whatever the version it is showing. Get the latest one, because they will be having pretty good upgradation all the time. So take the latest one. Once you click that, and once that MSI is installed, if you double click on that, it will give you this pop-up where it says your installation is in the progress, right? Go there, go to next, and finally, if you click on the install, you will see this one. So whatever you see local host with the port which is available. So by default, Azure portal always listen 19080. So this is the port they have configured it, right? So here, if you see, let me go back to my one of the place where I have configured locally. Just a minute. Where is yeah. Let me go. So this is nothing but, if you download it, you can see this icon in my tray, right? And just you need to do right click, and if you see, you need to go for the first, you need to of course start local cluster. You will be having if you see node 1 and node 5, by default I'm running on the node 5, which means this, wherever the local cluster, right, is hosted, this actually treating as a 5 different node server, 5 different virtual machines for me, right? Now you can always stop it whenever you want. You can actually reset it, and you can like restart it. And once everything is done, you just click on the manage local cluster. You will see this particular window, right? By I've already okay, yeah. I'll just quickly show you how exactly it looks, since I said like this is the 5 nodes, and right now only one application is hosted. The one application is nothing but one of my services are hosted. In future, if hundred of thousand of applications are there to make a one product, all those will be listed here. And of course, based on the requirement, the number of nodes will be increased, right? Now, coming back to the details and the metrics, all the places where your all your information will be there. So this is nothing but how many virtual machine is showing it. So that's how you can say it. Image store is nothing but where actually your binaries will get and set it, right? Manifest is nothing but, let's say like you don't want to what do you call create the download the MSI and run it, right? I mean, execute the exe MSI and then create deploy run this local, I mean, make a local host by deploying this thing, right? What you can do it, you can copy this particular manifest, You can use the Service Fabric client. They have ready-made PowerShell scripts. You can use this in a file and just run it. By default, all your things will be created for you. So what I'm trying to say, instead of like all this steps, starting with downloading, clicking on the link, downloading this installation, and then doing all those things, you can just copy this one time. You can share across your team just for your learning and the enhancing, or maybe you're developing your local base, and you can say it all those things. Now, coming back to the cluster, if you go to the cluster and essentials, I showed you this, right? Here it says the health state, right? If any of the things are gone wrong, by default, you can see some of the error, and down you'll see here some error message, which will tell you exactly where it went wrong. Then you need to fix that, right? It says your installation may cause some issues, maybe some exception happened in the backend, and because of that, some issues are there. So that you need to fix it before you actually deploy your code and run your test. Now, coming back to the section of that, the first section is called the applications, where you actually what do you call actually you deploy your application. Next is the nodes. Nodes are nothing but your Microsoft sheets or the servers. Coming back, so you can see the backbone of the this fabric. It's complete the just like we do the fault analysis, the naming service, the domain services. All the things are actually uh, already written in the microservice as service fabric, right? So only key, the backbone or the main thing which actually uses to communicate from application to the servers, the nodes. So that's how we need to like all things are ready and health state should be always gone wrong. It will by default and you will not be able to do anything of it. So what I'll do now, so since I have installed already, it will take hell lot of time. I will just go through one of the code which I've written again in the you can write PHP, any of the languages because it supports all of those. So when you actually install Visual Studio or the Java, they will be having some plugin to install this what you call the Service Fabric project, right? Those plugins will be there. So you need to download while installing this. You'll be able to create a project stateless and the stateful services. Since you see this is nothing but the service application where it supports to deploy in the service fabric cluster and do that either the local and the Azure. So this is a particular project to do that. Next is you can do what you want. You can write it web application. You can write it console application. You can write it some of the application. I mean any other application which you want to actually write it, right? Now the third is basically I just differentiated. Now I'm using the XUnit. You can use what you call MS test, NUnit, JUnit, whatever the mode of the test execution engine is there, right? You can use any of those. Now based on that, what I've done, I so if you look at in my first test, I'm just using the assert true and saying it's a pass. Then I'm saying assert false, but I'm asking for true. Then obviously this test will fail, right? So my aim is not to show some test. My aim is to just write some dummy test and show you how it execute in local and then how it execute in the cluster with Azure, right? So that's why I've not gone through any of the hard or meaningful tests, right? Let me go to the web this application. So we need to focus only some of the service manifest and other application manifest. So these are the two main XML files which will tell you uh, where the development will happen, what is your application type, and how you are going to deploy it, right? So if you see the service manifest, it will have all your details, what exactly you want, what is the version. So those version also you can manipulate from the Azure directly instead of doing from here. And then coming uh, stateless, see the service which I'm using the stateless. You can have stateless or stateful together. You can have only stateless or stateful, right? But in actual product application, you may require both, right? So you can create two different application, two different solution, and you can combine it together in form of cluster, right? So that's the good thing which we have for that. Like login, for login, you can create for adding to the card, you can create another solution. Then you can combine it with the help of Azure. So coming back to the service manifest, so this is again pretty much pretty much similar, but only the difference will take about uh, what you can do it if you don't give any of the port here, right? HTTP, because for HTTPS a lot of things are required. So this I'm using HTTP right now. So what you can do it if you are giving, if you want to occupy some of the port or other people don't use it, you can hard code it the port number. Let's say you don't want to use it. So by default, the cluster create you some dummy port for you, and with the help of that, you'll be able to run your test, run your API which you have created, right? So this is nothing but I have created one of the controller which actually tell you to run my test. So this is line of the chunk of my code which actually try to run your test, right? If you see, I'm running my test here, and with the help of that, I'm just running. What are the tests I'm running? I'm just running these two tests. So let me just go to that. Since I've deployed, I'll also show you how to deploy it. But since I deployed already, I'll just go to the Postman. What I'll go to the application section. So this is nothing but my SF application 2 is nothing but my solution here, right? SF application 2, and based on that, a tag will get appended here, and you can see like this is node one, or this is the place where actually my data is there. So when you create the local host, right, by default, one folder will be created in C drive with SF dev cluster. And when you deploy it, all your the data will be there in the image. This is the place where all files will be there, and from there, with the help of some scripts, internal scripts, they have written it. All the nodes, it will get shared across it, right? So that's how it actually works, even in production or in your local. So let me go back to here. So node one, if you see right now, this is my computer name, and you can actually give local. So this is a port which is 8047. Yeah, 8047, right? So that's getting deployed there, and that's how it is there. If you don't give the port there, it will generate random whatever the available or free port on the system. It will generate there. It will work on that. The control next run, I'll simply go and call the test and controller. Again, I require some of the body, so this is nothing but how you write your code. It's nothing to do with Azure Fabric and the service cluster, nothing to do with that. It totally depends how you're coding it. What I've given here, test on the API unit test or based on that, you provide space. You can provide the test name also instead of providing the namespace, and then it will run your test, right? Now, when you actually hit this, let me read that since I put a breakpoint it doing there. Now, it, since it's in debug mode, right? You can see that actually filled. Yes, first by pass through. See, a few test case got passed, which was actually required. One test case got failed, and then I'm just logging the exception right now, whatever it has, right? This is how actually you can modify it. You can modify your response however you want. Since I just have to demo it, I did it in that way, right? So let me just go there and try to publish it. As soon as I stop the debugger, if you go back here and try to refresh, you will see nothing will be there. I mean, all the application is gone here, right? There's no application attached. If you go to the cluster here, earlier you saw the one application was there associated with that, now zero, right? So it's an immediate action. So let me go back and show you how to publish it. You need to go to the publish. So if you want to publish
Time
to the
is like
local one, no,
5 minutes left.
yeah, sure. local, if you want to deploy in the local cluster node 1 and the node 5, that option is there, and that is nothing but let me go back before that. How actually they are doing it, they have some of the PowerShell scripting. If you go to the scripts deploy, yeah, so this is the PowerShell anything here. So it's auto generated, and based on that, what the application parameter which you have given, I'm sorry, the published profile which you have given, the X Cloud XML local 1 node 5 node, based on that it will go and trigger it. So that's how it's actually planning it and publishing it. Let me go to the publish section, select let me select the local node 5, and upgrade. I told you, right, from the service manifest also you can upgrade the version. From here also you can upgrade the version. Like you want to said, there will not be any downtime. Let's say your application is going for the very first time, you don't need to click on the upgrade here. But if you want to upgrade second time where all some of the components are existing there, right, you just need to click on the upgrade, and only that particular changes will be deployed in your production, and rest of the things will keep aside. In that case only your application will not be having any down. Just click on the publish, see what's happening. It will be fast. If you try to deploy in your what you call in your local system with some other mechanism, it will take some time. But if you try to deploy with using this, yeah, let's see. So all information will be there. What is happening exactly? It is doing. So meanwhile it is deploying, I'll quickly show you, move to the slide and go to the Azure portal. So Azure portal also you can log into the Azure. There will be many ways to do it, but the best way to do it is using the Azure client. Right? Using the Azure client with all the italic things are the command where it will tell you which resource group you want to create. If you have the existing resource group, you can use it. Which solution you want to do, Asia, South Asia, US, UK, whatever it is. Cluster name you provided. What is the cluster name? Certification path. This is the path which is required for authentic. Provide the name, the key vault where all your certification exists. So all the things will be created. Creating that. So first you're going to create a resource. Then you're going to create a key vault. Again, you're verifying it whether it's created or not. And the final step is to create a service fabric cluster. Either you can go by UI mode in the Azure portal or go by here to create. I believe this is the easiest way to do it, because if you do this way, there will be very less chances to miss anything, right? So once it is created, it will look something like this. Let me go back to here. So this is nothing but the GTR 2020. I've given the name and I've seen this. Let me go back to here. Nothing but similar to the local host which I showed you. Again, I have deployed here, but you're seeing, right? What are the services, partition, all the application will be there. If you see, a lot of things are not available in the locally when you actually compare it. Now coming back to the application, again I have deployed it. The deployment is in same way how we are going to deploy. And here I'll show you the load balance. Then I'll jump in here. We go to the load balancing. So this is my source group where all my cluster name, the key vault, the load balancing, virtual machine, the blob storage is got created, right? I'll go to the VM, which is nothing but my name of the VMs. Since I've opted for the 5 VMs, all the 5 VMs will be listed here. All the VMs will be listed here like networking. You can actually stop when this portal is not in use. You can actually stop it, restart whatever is needed. Now go back to the this one load balancer, go to the health props. This is the place where load balancing is done, right? So this is the port I need to assign it. So I can use it with the port 80, 80, 81, 80, 87, 19,000 and 19080. So these are the port I can actually use it to run the same test, right? A list of the tests. Load balancing rules are again there, which need to be, I told you, right, the communication, how it is happening in the backend. So all those communication will be having here. The certificate is again is tied up here. So if you create if you run this particular command, the create service fabric cluster in the PowerShell, it will create all your stuff here, and finally you need to use this where your cluster name will be showing here up. Yeah, the cluster name is nothing but it will show you here, and all your application. One application is right now tied up. Another is like what are the VMs are there. All the virtual machine are tied up. Now coming back to here in the cluster, I've
Pawan,
already deployed it. Yeah,
please, please conclude.
yeah. So I have deployed it, and the same way, what I'll do it, I'll just quickly go and run it. 8787 port with the same body. I'll just try to run it. I'll see the report or the result in a second. Yeah, I got the result. And if you see like this time also I have put the same way and my test case, one of the test case I was expecting to fail and it got failed. So what is the whole idea behind it is like you write a test, you write either UI test, unit test, API test, create one of the API or one of the testing API and call all of your tests together. And then you run your test as part of your part of the CI/CD for the production run. And since we are using the cloud-based services, either the Azure or the AWS, you can integrate with that. You can scale it whenever it's required. You can like deploy your code that will be having like no downtime, and that is how the market is right now. That is how the market is tending. You need to use it and see how exactly it can be incorporated in your organization. So the last slide, I'll just go to the reference. So I have already this code in the GitHub. You can go there and download those applications. But before that, you need to go and download all your requirement for installing either the locally and the Azure. So thank you.
Thanks, Pawan. We'll take questions.
Yeah, the first question is like as I said, like it doesn't depends on the platform. The only there are a lot of things, a lot of microservices apps are there. But today I have chosen the microservices app because it has directly interaction with the Azure, where the Google app for that you need to find some alternative, right, which is directly supported with Google app. So there's no much difference with the Google app engine or the service fabric, but using this you'll be having a better understanding.
Okay. Thank you, Pawan. It was a great session.